So I see a lot of misinformation about gangs on the internet. A lot of people making videos, all Crip means community revolution and progress, and blood is brotherly love overrides oppression. Shut the fuck up. None of that shit is fucking true. The Black Panther Party was all but eliminated by the time that Crips started. Crips did not come from Black Panthers. Crips were gangs of teenagers. They were mostly kids, 15, 16 years old, up to like 20. They weren't 30, 40-year-old men who were running the Black Panther Party, which was all but eliminated by the time. See, the CIA targeted the Black Panther Party and took the Black Panther Party down. If you read Blood in My Eyes, etc., books like this, you would understand about what happened with the BGF and the Black Panther Party, etc. But a lot of people don't even know who the fuck George Jackson is, never mind John Jackson. So they don't know exactly what was going down with the Black Panther Party at the end, holding up courtrooms, etc. Those are actually good things for you to go look up on your own. But the BGF was running the prison system. The BGF is the complete opposite of the Black Panther Party. They believed in drugs, crime, etc. And Black Panther Party members who were coming to prison were disassociating themselves from the Black Panthers because they were saying the Black Panther Party wasn't taking care of them in prison. They were joining the BGF. It was actually a BGF member that killed Huey Newton. So this is a couple years later when Crips started. Now, Crips were individual street gangs. These gangs were brought together. Raymond Washington, Stanley Tookie Williams brought these two gangs together. Now, these gangs are not Crips. These are individual gangs. This is why these are sets. You have different gangs at the time, which you had the Harlem Godfathers, you had the Gladiators, etc. These gangs came together under an umbrella. Crip is an umbrella. It's not a gang. It's an umbrella that gangs identify as. So they came under this umbrella as an alliance at the time. Everybody was aligned together. Now, a lot of those alliances are broken. You have different alliances. You have Neighborhood, the Gangster Card, the Mafia Card, all these different cards that exist within Crip. Same thing within Blood, the Pyru Card, etc. So these gangs got so powerful that they started actually oppressing other gangs. Now, mind you, this is the beginning of Crip. They were already oppressing other people. Now, people say, oh, it's community revolution. No, it was to protect us, our people, from outside gangs and outside influences. And then you have people say, oh, well, you don't own the block. And no, yes, you do. Owning the block is more than owning real estate. The pimping, the drug dealing, all these things were owned by this gang. Nobody could sell drugs here when drugs bringing in millions and millions of dollars in some areas. Nobody but this gang could move drugs in this area. So yes, they do own that block because nobody else can come on that block and do anything, and they protect it with violence. They don't own the buildings, but who the fuck cares about a $30,000 building when you got $1 million of cocaine profits coming in? So these gangs came together, established in these areas, took these areas over, started oppressing the other gangs, and then you had Bloods. Bloods were a gang that they weren't a gang yet, but you had Pyru Street, etc., and these gangs were getting into beefs with Crip gangs. These were gangs that did not join under the Crip umbrella. Pyru did. To get it correct, Pyru did join Crips, and then they joined. So Pyru started off as Crips. They was rocking blue flags, and they decided to create their own gang, which was Bloods, because they were actually being oppressed by the Crips. The Crips were the oppressors. This is the beginning now. There was no Black Panther shit. There was no community revolution in progress. There was none of that. That is fucking cap. And this is completely documented from the CIA files that watched them, from actual OG members that are actually older than me. And this is the actual true fucking history that happened. So these gangs started going to war because you had the Bloods that felt like they were being oppressed and the Crips that were doing the oppression. Now, a lot of people started joining the Bloods. So as people started joining the Bloods, they started getting bigger, and they actually fought back against the Crips, which is actually good of them because they were smaller gangs. They were actually able to not only hold territories because they actually had large territories, but they got the Black P Stones in, the Jungles, etc. They got these other groups to come in, which created a large formation of gangs that were really situated in one area that was then able to spread out because there's so much power in this area. And it was a bloody war that continued for years and years and years. But I'm tired of people saying, oh, it's community revolution in progress. Like, gangs help people cross the streets. And no, they do things for your community. People go outside and do things to help their community and things going on. They don't give a fuck about your grandmother, your mother, or nothing, because there's still people within the gang that are selling drugs, doing criminal activity, etc. But that doesn't mean everybody is. It's a family of people who identify with this area. Now, people still say they Crips because they identify with this history. This is the umbrella that they came from, that started in LA, etc., as it spread out. Now in New York, you have Bloods established themselves because they were being oppressed by the Latino inmates that were in prison, and they felt like they needed something to defend themselves then. So well, when you really think about it, the Bloods was getting bullied on both coasts. And that's why they created their gangs. And then they became the most powerful gang on the East Coast. A lot of people are saying it's Trinitarios now. I don't know. I haven't been in prison in over a decade, and I have no plans of going back. And they say Trinitarios are actually really strong running shit now, which, I mean, I don't mind because I was always cool with Dominicans. I never had a single problem with Dominicans in prison. When I was in prison, it was DPP, Dominican Power, which was the one Dominican gang that was powerful at the time. I guess Trinitarios came later. I never met none, but I was actually there when the Dominicans fought the Latin Kings. If you look in my old prison videos, you'll see a video where I was talking about the riot that was between the Latin Kings and the Nietas. I was actually in the yard when that shit happened, when Pun got stabbed in the day room and other little Latin King got knocked out. I can't remember his name, Bolone and Red Rock, and everybody was there. So I was there for this situation. I was cool with everybody, so I didn't get involved. I had nothing to do with it. It was between them. But I watched the Dominicans fight to earn their respect from other Latinos, Latin Kings and Nietas, etc. And they had a hard path. And for them to take over from the Bloods, because I knew the Bloods were so powerful, it's just insane to me. But yeah, this is how the gangs started. Gangs came from sets, individual sets that claim this territory or this area. This is where they sold drugs. This is where they did pimping. This is where they did this and that and everything else that they was doing. They claim these sets. And it's the same thing with the Mexicans. The Mexicans claim this. They claim that. These are gangs. These are not people out here trying to save the community. These are people that are, a lot of people that are doing things to save themselves. They feel like crime or being involved in this is the only way that they can get out of this lifestyle. And some of us get out of the lifestyle. We're able to do other things. Some of us get trapped in the lifestyle and remain there. And some of us go to prison for life or die, etc. These are the risks that people take. It's a gambling thing that a lot of people do. But I really hate when people come online and push this false information. This is the real shit. This is the history of Crips and Bloods, etc. And I broke it down as simplistically as possible. This is already known by the FBI and ATF and CIA. This is not no fucking secret. The problem is people trying to push this new misinformation. And there are some homies that believe in community revolution and progress, who believe that we can change the gang to a more positive means. Actually, Larry Hoover tried to do that with the growth and development with the GDs, and a lot of the BDs, etc., fought against it. And shit, a lot of the GDs who said they was about growth and development ain't about no growth and development at all. They on some bullshit. So they didn't listen to Hoover either. They out here doing the same shit that they was doing before. So yeah, there are OGs that are trying to turn the gang into a more positive aspect and help it to do what it's doing. But for you to push that like that's some type of truth, it's not. Crips had no connection to the Black Panther Party at all. As a matter of fact, BGF was the blacks that were running the prison at the time, and it had nothing to do with no motherfucking Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party at that time was already eliminated by the CIA. Gangs having so much power within the hoods had a lot to do with Contra, bringing drugs into the communities, and had a lot to do with the gangs getting stronger by the elimination of black leadership, the elimination of the Black Panther Party, taking them down, and stopping this. Because if the Black Panther Party had existed within the neighborhoods instead of gangs, we would see a different black community to this day. And the government knew this, and the government did everything within their means to stop this. And this is the reason why Bloods and Crips were allowed to get so big, because it was a negative thing that was negative on the youth, that was negative on the community. And like I said, there's some of us that are trying to change that, and there's some of us that are trying to do better, but not all of us. So yeah, don't listen to anybody giving you gang culture or gang history who's, one, not a gang member, and two, not connected to the West Coast. Because if your set's not connected to the West Coast, I don't give a fuck what you're talking about. If you're in the middle of Arkansas somewhere, you ain't been out west, and you ain't connected to the homies out west, I don't give a fuck about that shit you talking about. If you been gangbanging for 30 years in Tennessee somewhere and you not connected out west, you don't know the history. You just out here recycling some bullshit that one person told you, and what that one person told you may be false. There's a lot of homies in prison. There's a lot of homies dead. Hopefully one day we can change the community so that the gangs can have peace within each other. We can all make money and all do what we need to do, either in a positive or negative light, depending on what everybody wants to do. Find a way to slow the killing down and slow the violence down, per se. But I don't think that day is ever going to happen. If it were, if the gangs were to come together in a positive light and were to start doing positive things in the community, the CIA would definitely find a way to come in and shut that shit down.